Have you ever had a need for a large land project and you just weren't sure how to get started? If you have a small farm or estate property, if you have land that's got a lot of trouble, like this one here, which had erosion issues, it had big trees near the house, it had a lot of problems that it's been facing for a number of years. In fact, there was a retaining wall here that had failed. It had failed because it was getting water behind it, but it was end of life long before we were able to remove it. Well, we've got a unique program called Managing Scratch. We have a unique program called Managed Land Projects. Yeah, it's real simple. How do you manage large projects like this with multiple vendors? How do you manage clearing land in a sustainable way? As you can see down at the bottom, we still have some brush that they're going to put in a berm that's going to help with erosion control. How do you manage this work with the right equipment? This piece of equipment here does this job a whole lot better than a little bobcat. And how do you do this at a cost-effective way? Our original quotes with tree service companies were more than it cost to clear the entire lot. Well, if you click the link below and ask your questions, I'll answer your questions about managing land projects, about getting your small farm in place, about handling erosion and large trees, and many of the hazards that can cost you a lot more on your home. The house on the back here has had a tree on it, right there behind the bulldozer, has had a tree on it. 2 trees from that yard fell over and crushed my neighbor's chimney. On the house right behind me, this deck's had a tree on it, and this whole sunroom had been replaced before we moved into it because a tree fell on it. We got to the point where the insurance company said, we're not paying for any more trees. And so something had to be done. Now, this has actually been in the works, in planning, for 4 years. Now, the reason it's been in planning for that long is because it was necessary to do this job once and to do this job right. If you've got a large estate property, a small farm, if you're a landscaper or excavator and you want to move on to bigger, larger projects, this is where you ask your questions below. I invite you to ask your questions. You can ask me your questions. I've got a number of professionals on board who can answer your questions as well. We're going to do some series of interviews. I'm a permaculture design consultant, but that alone doesn't qualify me to do something big like this. In fact, I worked with excavators, hauling companies, foresters, also talked with Virginia Tech, and I'll recommend some resources from Virginia Tech if you're here in the temperate climate. How this land gets managed is more than just a design certification, is more than just an organic gardening certification. It's real project management, and I can teach you that. There's a link below, and I invite you to ask your questions. I've managed data center migrations. I've managed installation of storage arrays to the cost of $1 million a day at a major financial firm. I am a desk jockey professional. I work at an office environment, and now I'm moving towards living my dream of having an ecologically sound paradise of my very own. These properties are zoned estate, so I can't have any chickens out here, or I can have rabbits, by the way, folks. We grew up on a farm with rabbits. Now, you don't have to grow up on a farm like this, because ours was actually like a hobby farm. But if you have a hobby farm or a small farm or an estate property, you want a big English garden, you want to have a more lifestyle from your property rather than just paying bills, well, guess what? I invite you to click the link below and ask your questions. This job's taken about a week. We scaled it back. A week as in 7 days. We scaled it back a little bit because we want to make it financially affordable. We don't want to go into debt doing something like this. And we're trying to increase the value of the home. At one time, this home up here was worth $500,000. House next door at one time was worth $170,000. But we bought this thing much less than $500,000, about $155,000. And the one across here was purchased for $70,000. The house down the street a little bit more is worth $200,000 right now, and then one just sold for $142,000. So there's another element of this if you're a real estate investor, or if you're someone who wants to get in a home that needs a little TLC. These are beautiful brick homes built in the 1963 and 1950s 8, I think, on the other side. If you want to get into a nice home that can just need a little TLC and can significantly increase in value, then this is the kind of thing you need to know. This is the skill that once you understand it, you can have the confidence to have the right people in to do a job like this. This type of work can go wrong. I've had 2 people come out on the site and say, I heard you had some trees removed, and that was before they dropped these down here. I said, yes, sir, we had some trees removed. And they said, well, I don't see it. I said, what do you mean? And they described many of those land clearings that happen all across communities. I'm actually here in Martinsville, Virginia, and I'll show you some pictures of land clearings that were done the wrong way, where the forester just got in, grabbed their dirt, and got out. And they did not do the quality job that we have here. I'll help you with vendor selection. I'll help you identify what types of people to get in here, how to handle conflicts on site. Imagine a dump truck stuck here. We've got footage of that. Dump truck was freaking stuck, and the guys are getting upset with each other because, you know, everybody's got to get their work done. The clock is running. You know, when they turn on a piece of equipment like this, first off, they got to grease it all up before when they stop, and then they check it all over when they get it started. There's like a preventative maintenance list by a long length of my arm. But when they turn this piece of equipment up, it costs me $2,000 a day. Okay, so how do you make sure that piece of equipment's doing what it needs to do? If that piece of equipment is emptying a dump truck because that dump truck got stuck, well, you know, that's money going down the drain. It slows the project down. How to make adjustments on the project. I invite you to click the link below, ask your questions about managing land projects. This is only 2 acres. Okay, imagine you got a 5-acre farm. How do you structure and design the property? How do you make sure that it is going to work the way you want? Is this driveway or this access road here done right for what we need? Is it done right for during the project? And then how do you adjust it for after the project? Do you have to install a bunch of drains? We found lots of drain conduit. Yeah, I'm new with the camera here, so it's not going to be the best video, but if you click the link below and you ask your questions, I am certain that I can ask your questions. We're going to put in a rainwater system, and I'm going to recommend a number of books to you. We're actually going to put rainwater management on all the houses, catch that water up on the hill, and think about this, folks. If the water's caught up on the hill up there, and you've got gardens down here, water loves going downhill. So we can gravity feed quite a bit of water to water the gardens. Now we have a lot of deer pressure here, so we're also going to talk about how do you handle deer pressure. I've got 4 neighbors that are just tired of being frustrated with their gardens, feeding the deer. That's what a lot of them call it, feeding the deer. They're just tired of that. So what we're going to do is build a community garden so neighbors can come together, and we're going to have the fencing correct so that the deer can't get in. Now the deer, deer can jump high, deer can jump far, but they can't jump high and far. So we got special fencing for that. We'll teach you all about those details. Again, I invite you to click the link below, ask your questions about your homestead, about your small farm, about your hobby farm, about your landscaping business that wants to step up and do some bigger jobs, about the land that's been frustrating you with erosion and trees falling down. And you just know there might be some value in those trees. We talk about that, how much you can expect to get for trees. We also talk about how to make money from your land. Because if you clear this off, you certainly don't want to mow. Well, I don't want to mow this. I do have a neighbor down the street that likes to mow. But frankly, I don't want to mow this. I want this land producing in an ecological way, whether it's beneficial insects, whether it's bees for honey, whether it is cut flowers. All these things we've got planned out here. In addition, a number of bird habitats. This house is registered with the Cornell Labs bird survey. We went from 3 species of birds we moved in 2013 to nearly 25 different species of birds now. So if you're a bird watcher, if you're someone who wants to get more from their land, then I invite you to click the link below and ask your questions. Now we're answering a lot of questions here. We're also putting together a number of videos and training, but you know what, frankly, I work a full-time job, so I don't have time to be a YouTuber. I'm not gonna be a YouTuber, but we're putting together things and tutorials so that you can sit down and answer your questions quickly. I'm really tired of searching on the internet for things, so I've gathered these resources, put them together in one space, and you can get involved with it here. Now we have a little concierge thing going on, because I understand that high-income professionals who own large properties, farmers can have significantly high incomes, but the point I'm making is these are busy folk. You know, you're a busy person, and you're not going to want to search 100 pages on the internet, read FAO documents, or I have a number of guides that came from Virginia Tech, and a number of guys that came from, we're in the state of Virginia, so I've got materials from the state of Virginia. All this is relevant if you're in a temperate climate, anywhere in the United States, anywhere in the world. And ultimately what we've got here can be applied relatively easily and be put into productivity in such a short period of time. Again, we've only 7 days into this project, and we're at the point where we can start cover cropping most of the property, and then we're going to have some finishing touches to bring the soil up. I like a little bit more backyard over here, and we are going to be able to top this out before the rainy season. There are things to be concerned about. There's a lot of mistakes that can be made, so I invite you to click the link below and ask your questions, because the mistakes can be deadly. That dump truck rolled over in here. If it did, we'd have to be pay. I'd have to pay to get it out, because there would be a huge argument about who's responsible. So again, this cut was cut out a little bit further so trucks can get in. There's a lot of video. Now my son's getting into video editing, so he'll be helping me with the video editing. And again, I want to edit only the videos that are good for your questions, because it's critically important that when you're doing a job like this, that it doesn't become your job. Now, if you're a landscaper, an excavator, a forester, if you're in this kind of business, and you want to learn how to partner with others, we do have a segment that talks about how that works. And I have a background in business development, project management, procurement. I can show you how to get involved with these type of jobs, because the $6,000 in soil we've got already, actually it's probably more than $6,000, the $12,000 we've got into this work, you know, this can be a lucrative project, and it can be really cost effective for the owner, but it can also be very profitable for the service contractors. Now, ultimately, this is about project management. Ultimately, this is about upgrading your lifestyle. This is ultimately about getting land under productive use in an ecologically and organic way. We're not putting chemical fertilizers down on this. This is a lot of ground to cover with that fancy organic fertilizer. Well, guess what? There's ways to grow your own fertilizer. Anyway, it's a little chilly out here. I'm just doing a site inspection this morning. I want to give you the opportunity to ask your questions and invite you to click the link below and ask your questions. This is an opportunity for you. I've got about 3 years of footage on this property. 3 years of footage on this property. I teach you how to remove bamboo and manage bamboo. Now, you don't see any bamboo. I show you it getting removed with this stuff. But there's other ways to manage bamboo. We talk about erosion control. There's a bunch of stopgap measures that were done early in the property. We talk about what to do when working with the vendors. Those trees should have been cut down a long time ago. It's just a matter of keeping those vendors on. And we're in a unique situation being here in Martinsville, Virginia, where for a long time it's been economically depressed. Severely economically depressed here in the foothills of Appalachia. We have an opportunity there to show you economic development methods, and I'm going to show you a couple farms that I visited over the years that have really transformed their land. They've turned their land into a productive resource, not only for themselves, but for their families. And if you'll ask your question, there's a link below. I'll be happy to answer any question that you have. Thanks for watching. I'm Justin Hitt from Prosperity Homestead. I can be reached at www.prosperityhomestead.org, and of course the link below, you can click that and ask your questions, and I'll get you a series of videos that answer some of the questions we've been getting so far. Thanks for watching. Are you still here? Click the link below. Thank you. I invite you to ask your questions. Talk to you soon.